Gristed was collecting this. The American collectors were well and truly up and running. It was 1896 that Pippa got the law changed in America to allow them to import pieces over 100 years old. And by then, the English aristocrats were falling on hard times and it was moving more and more to America. And Bearsted stood up as really the last great British aristocratic collector of this sort of stuff.
Yes. But whether he was British or not hardly mattered. He was a rich industrial...
Well, I think it matters a lot because he's the end of an extraordinary line.
But he had more in common with the Americans.
Yes, I agree with you. But this is here. And different from Serve, you'd never get confused, would you?
No.
And Serve never did this for
No. No. I mean, on the other hand, what was quite interesting, in some English catalogues of 1770, this brown was called Pompadour. And I think I've seen it called Pompadour before I've seen it called Pompadour for this.
Yeah.
Before
because you had that quote, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Which came from an English catalogue. Was it these you were talking about?
I think it was.
Yeah.
Who did the figure painting? Do we know who did the figure painting?
No, we don't know who actually painted them, do we? No. There are various people.
I mean, the birds, there are all kinds of people one could say, but the figures are so exquisite.
And this, I love this.
Yes.
But it's quite unusual at this early date to have this lapis. You get it on cups and saucers and this, but you don't get it very much on clothes. No. I love the mark. I think it's the sexiest thing.
I mean, to my mind...
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah. I mean, to my mind, it's one of the most important Vincennes vases ever made. Wonderful. Now, when you look at the tea service, there are two cups and saucers. One is later decorated and one is original. I'm not going to say which.
Well, we're not going to see, presumably, because they're not here.
No, it's next door.
Yeah, but handling...
But it's quite late 1764.
But you do get that sort of 1763, 64 yellow.
Yes, you do. It's on those
which is hotter, which you can see is hotter than the earlier one. Slightly hot. This has got the Ormont in it, birds and the mark. And it's had a little smash head. Well, yes. Don't we all?
The birds aren't actually that special.
No, they're pretty good. Still here. And then there's this amazing piece from the Catherine II of Russia cells.
Without the gilt.
Well, I love the asymmetry of it. But that's the nicest.
I think that's okay.
I always love the underglaze blue and the overlays. I think that's just such an exciting piece.
That is beautiful.
But that's
yes,
nice.
We're more than happy to be turned on by that. Yeah. Especially its delicious matte marks.
And it's beautiful blue. It's a beautiful.
This is really intriguing because, and it's a service that was thought to have been made for Madame du Barry and begun in 1773, left unfinished when Louis XIV died in 1774, and therefore did not get completed with all the gilding.
Right.
And he thinks it was sold off during the Revolution without the gilding. So it may have had the B in flowers, but it wouldn't have had the D in gilding. And there we rested until I was working on my second Earl of Lonsdale papers and found in one of his bills, I think it was at Birdley in Paris in the 1830s, that he was paying to have the Ds gilded on the Dubarry pieces for a certain amount of money, which I think is absolutely riveting.
But if the service was unfinished at Sèvres in 1774 when Louis XV died, unfinished means that it can cover all sorts of things. So it can mean that some pieces were painted and not gilded, but it may mean that some pieces... It can mean that some pieces were gilded. And there are 2 or 3 plates of this type that one has seen over the years, which do appear to have the appropriate genuine gilding of the period. And this does not apply to the plate in the Ziesnis collection, which happened to have date letter to have a revolutionary period mark of some kind. And Otti was persuaded that the DB that belonged to Josephine, the DB stood for de Beauharnais. And so he got completely off the deep end.
Over the gilding.
Well, do they? I'm not sure. But I think what's interesting, what I would say here, is that the D has been added to make that the axis. But actually the B has that as the axis. And I suspect this is one that's had the D added later.
Well, I think that if you look at the flatness of the gilding here, then that sort of further witness to that.
It's too thick.
Yeah, it's too thick and flat.
But wouldn't it be exciting if we could really be brave, take the bull by the horns and try and identify the pieces from this service, and as John says, which were finished and which weren't, and whether they were
one or two. I can't remember where they are, but...
and of course, the pattern wasn't unique to Madame du Barry.
No, of course, you get CL.
Daughter.
Yes.
Granddaughter.
Yeah.
Goddaughter.
Yes. This is one of 4 Harlequin plates. The 4th book was put on the 20th of January 1784. It's of course, on the 17th of April, Jacques-François Micot painted the border panels, and Charles Éloi Asselin painted the middle. Also, but it's not, he didn't sign it, funnily enough, but between January and April, while Etienne Henri Le Gouet did the gilding. So, I mean, it's one of these wonderful things where we've got every single date, which I find is the other...
It is so light. I cannot believe that. Can't other people just have a feel?
Oh, well, with your permission...
And then these are very rare shape. There's some in Wadsworth Athenaeum in Hertford, and there are some at Goodwood. But usually, this cuvette orange tub shape. But here they have this cut corner. Garniture. Because these are dated 1780 to 81, and you can trace them right through the Sèvres documents. The painters, the gilders, the flower painters, and the firers. Morin painted the main scenes. And then they were sold to one of the Russian ambassadors, and they went through the Cheremetov collection, and they came to London when the Cheremetov dinner service was shown at Wertheimers and published about 19, I can't remember exactly when. Because you look at that and you think you see this all over the place. You absolutely don't. These are dated by Le Gay, 1767. They appear in his own time records of 1768. And he was paid 20 livres for the vase tombeau and 15 livres each for the vase mummy. So they're quite expensive decoration.